Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green. You're watching AMTV Alternative Media Television. I am the president and founder of this media channel, and I've been doing this for 11 years. And I don't think I've ever been compelled like I am today to share a message that I think is an emergency happening right now, not just in the state of Virginia, but soon to be all across the United States of America. And it is absolutely critical that you share this video with as many people as you humanly and possibly can, not just among citizens in the state of Virginia, but across the United States of America. This, what I'm about to report, threatens the very viability of our country, our constitutional republic, our Bill of Rights, and certainly the Second Amendment. And I just want to say that I don't think any of this legislation being pushed by Democrats, has anything to do with public safety. I keep hearing this in the news. It's all about public safety and the safety of citizens in Virginia and in the United States. I think if that was really the case, the legislation that I'm about to read to you wouldn't be worded the way that it is worded. In a confiscatory method to take guns out of the hands of innocent, law-abiding, tax-paying citizens, not just in Virginia, but I think they're attempting to roll this out all across every great state in our country. And we need to take this very, very seriously. And understand that this draconian language has been written this way for a reason. I also don't believe this to be a partisan issue at all. I refuse to believe that it is Democrat versus Republican or Republican versus Democrat. I think this is about our constitutional liberty in this great country and great constitutional republic. And that should be the focus of our discussion. Of course, I think both parties care about safety in America, care about the rights of individuals. At least I would hope so. And I think that you will understand and be a little bit more clear on what the true agenda actually is as I dig in a little bit more to this story. So again, please share this. I have not been compelled to put out an emergency message like this, I don't think, in 11 years since I've been doing this. And I am very, very fearful, as the NRA has reported today, that this could lead to gun bans, gun rationing, and outright confiscation in the United States of America. I will post a link to all articles and said documents and legislation we are about to go over. Law-abiding gun owners throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia must continue to join together to fight against gun bans, gun rationing, and confiscation this January in Richmond. Now, I reported on a couple of days ago there is a planned rally, an event, January 20th, being held in Virginia. But you need to understand this is happening now, well in advance. Another reason why you need to share this video, well in advance of the planned rally. And this is confirmed by the NRA. Your NRA has events planned for the early critical days of the 2020 legislative session. The first hearing of the Senate Courts of Justice Committee is January 13th, where lawmakers could hear the first slate of bills to restrict our freedom into oblivion. Now, it's important to note in the state of Virginia, not only is there a lot of history with the Civil War and the founding of America, of course, but Democrats currently control not just the state assembly, the Senate, but they also own the governor seats. And they are looking to pass, if these bills pass, guns will be confiscated. This is the actual language in these bills. Senate Bill number 16, which I'll read to you in a moment. Senate Bill number 64 and other legislation. House Bill number 67. So the first hearing of the Senate Courts of Justice Committee is January 13th, where lawmakers could hear the first slate of bills to restrict our freedom. It's critical that law-abiding gun owners are heard on this day, because waiting even 1 week to make our voices heard, whether individually or at an organized event, will simply be too late. Anti-gun Governor Northam wants the entire package of gun control bills fast-tracked for passage in the first week of the short session. Now, it's also important to note Northam is the same governor who was in the news not too long ago talking about that babies would be resuscitated after they were born alive only if the mother wanted that to happen. He's pro-abortion and says that they may or may not resuscitate the living babies after they came out of the womb and delivered, depending on what the mother wanted. The NRA continues, we must defend freedom at the very first hearing on the 13th and show the new bought and paid for anti-gun majority that our rights are not for sale to Bloomberg or anyone else. Bloomberg, of course, funded good portions and great parts of Governor Northam's campaign to become governor. I have another report here. It says changes in Virginia, what Democratic lawmakers say they'll do with control of the legislature. Republicans voice concern, question Democrats' civility. So let's dig right into these bills. And let's start with Senate Bill number 16, introduced by Dick Saslaw. A semi-automatic centerfire rifle that expels single or multiple projectiles by action of an explosion of a combustible material with a fixed magazine capacity in excess of 10 rounds. This is Clause 1. Clause 2, a semi-automatic centerfire rifle, this is the legislation they're introducing, that expels single or multiple projectiles by action of an explosion of a combustible material that has the ability to accept a detachable magazine and has one of the following characteristics: a folding or telescoping stock, a pistol grip that protrudes conspicuously beneath the action of the rifle, a thumbhole stock, a second hand grip or a protruding grip that can be held by the non-trigger hand, a bayonet mount, a grenade launcher, a flare launcher, a silencer, a flash suppressor, a muzzle brake, a muzzle compensator, a threaded barrel capable of accepting a silencer, a flash suppressor, a muzzle brake, a muzzle compensator, or any characteristics of like kind as enumerated in clauses 1 through 7. Then it continues, Clause 3, a semi-automatic center-fire pistol that expels single or multiple projectiles by action of an explosion of a combustible material with a fixed magazine capacity in excess of 10 rounds. Now, what you need to understand about this legislation, and what I just read to you, is what they're basically talking about is all guns. Not just a few guns, not just assault firearms, as they suggest here in the legislation, but this would mean all semi-automatic weapons, pistols, handguns, and shotguns. And then they also use very, very loose, subjective language that could be interpreted any way that they want. And they're doing this intentionally because these legislators are smart and they know exactly what they were doing. They say things like any characteristic of like kind as enumerated in these clauses. So again, looking at this bill, number 16, this really does include all guns in the state of Virginia, not just assault firearms, not just grenade launchers and these kinds of things, but all guns really for all purposes, as is your constitutional Second Amendment right to defend yourself. Onwards to bill number 64. This has to do with intent. Says this: teaches or demonstrates to any other person the use, application, or making of any firearm, explosive, or incendiary device or technique capable of causing injury or death to persons, knowing or having reason to know or intending that such training will be employed for use or in furtherance of a civil disorder. Almost as if they're expecting conflict and civil disorder in the state of Virginia, which potentially could be this, God forbid, flashpoint in the United States of America like it has before in our nation's founding and history. Now, Senate Bill number 64, introduced by Luis Lucas, has to do with intent. Now, again, this is incredibly subjective and could be interpreted in any way that the legislators deem that they want to interpret it. This would mean, for example, that if you taught your son to go hunting, this could be interpreted as promoting civil disorder, or those skills and skill sets in using legal, rightful, constitutional firearms could be interpreted that those same skills could be used not just for hunting and teaching your son or daughter how to hunt, but could be used for civil disorder, and then, of course, lead to gun bans and confiscation means. Also, House Bill number 67, submitted by Delegate Lee Carter, says this: any public safety employee who in concert with two or more other such employees for the purpose of obstructing, impeding, or suspending any activity or operation of his employing agency or any other governmental agency strikes or willfully refuses to perform the duties of his employment shall by such action be deemed to have terminated his employment and shall thereafter be ineligible for employment any position or capacity during the next 12 months, giving us a timeline, by the Commonwealth or any county, city, town, or other political subdivision of the Commonwealth, or by any department or agency of any of them. So it gives us a timeline for potential confiscation and says that if any of these government employees fail to confiscate guns as a result of the passing of these bills, Senate Bill number 64 and Senate Bill number 16, that said individuals and employees would be relieved from their duties. Now, it's important to note that Governor Northam said this, quote, "If we have constitutional laws on the books and law enforcement officers are not enforcing those laws on the books, then there are going to be consequences, but I'll cross that bridge if and when we get to it." Many people were led to believe and had feared that the National Guard would be used to confiscate weapons in Virginia.
Let me tell you what happens when the government tries to take away people's guns. This is not hypothetical. You can see it happening right in front of your eyes in the state of Virginia. And you know how the Democrats responded? The Democrats in the state of Virginia, in the government, threatened to call the military, the National Guard, against citizens who refuse to give up their legal right to keep and bear arms.
So here we have legislation, Bill number 16, which flatly states its intent to confiscate weapons in the state of Virginia, using language that is totally subjective, that could mean anything, quote, any characteristic of like kind, which focuses on intent, which could make it a crime for law-abiding citizens to simply teach their kids how to hunt for survival. It could be misconstrued as promoting the intention of civil disorder in the state of Virginia and or the United States of America. And then, of course, House Bill number 67, which lays out the agenda for confiscation and the banning of guns that will relieve government employees from duty if they fail to do so and potentially go door to door in the state of Virginia. Now, we all know who this Governor Ralph Northam is. I mentioned his stance on abortion, and also here this photo of the governor. The point is, this has nothing to do with public safety in the state of Virginia or this great constitutional republic, the United States of America. This has to do with an agenda to confiscate guns. It has to do with the fact that these people don't like that you have a God-given human right protected by God and under the Constitution of this great republic and, of course, the Bill of Rights, to defend your life, your family, your liberty, and form well-regulated militias to defend against what's happening now in the state of Virginia with this legislation they're attempting to pass, to defend from tyranny. But I want to dig into this a little bit further. And again, please share this video. It is so important that we mobilize across the country right now. Share this across your social networks. What could this be a part of? What bigger agenda could this tie into? So you can see through the larger agenda of the United Nations through their UN Small Arms Program of Action, otherwise known as UNPOA, states this: by consensus between states in 2001, the UN Small Arms Program of Action placed a politically but not a legally binding commitment on national governments to implement the measures agreed upon and to provide the UN with periodic national reports on their progress. These commitments have been summarized as, quote, regulating small arms transfers and brokering activities, criminalizing the illegal manufacture, possession, stockpiling, and trade of small arms and light weapons, ensuring that weapons be marked and registered, enforcing arms embargoes, destroying surplus and confiscated weapons, raising public awareness, and implementing disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration programs. And I'll leave a link here. You can read about the U-Arms Trade Treaty, your country's position, of course, we here in the United States, and what the intention for gun control is by this third party outside of U.S. dominion and Sovereignty, United Nations. Now, also, I have something that to me I find very, very alarming, and I encourage you to share this as well. The United Nations seeking, quote, disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration officers in New York. And in fact, if you visit the UN website, un.org, link in the description below, they've just posted this job opening in and around Christmas for the title of disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration officers, which means exactly what it says: to disarm the American public, demobilize civil unrest and these kinds of things, and to enforce this gun control on the American people. And then, of course, the reintegration of said populations after forceful removal, confiscatory efforts, and gun bans and registration. Now, it's important to note that registration always leads to confiscation throughout history. So when these legislators say things like they'll let you keep your guns as long as you register, throughout history that has always led to outright confiscatory means, no matter which case or which country you study. This was posted December 26, 2019 on the United Nations Careers website. And I will post again a link in the description so you can read this for yourself. It says here, United Nations core values: integrity, professionalism, respect, or diversity. So the UN is promising full implementation of these gun control agreements, which are highly anti-constitutional and non-sovereign of the United States government itself, certainly states' rights. And they are quietly pushing this international gun control, not just in the United States, but worldwide. Here are what people are saying about this on Twitter right now. Franklin David says, new gun control laws take effect in Virginia today. Northam preparing to jail gun owners. If you don't follow this law, you're going to jail. This is unconstitutional. A ban on commonly owned semi-automatic firearms will not reduce violent crime. There's also been reports of UN vehicles already moving into the state of Virginia, to be confirmed, to assist with potential alleged troop gun control. Proposed legislation in Virginia can make the vast majority of guns illegal, and confiscation is on the table. How is this not all over the news? This is from Law Enforcement Today. Lori says, we knew this would happen. The Democrats are trying to get the UN involved in U.S. policy concerning gun control. When the militias rise up in Virginia, it will be an invasion by the UN, expressing fears that this is already taking place. And again, I just read you some of these job postings and brief parts of the UN agenda. Christopher Hensley says this, at Real Donald Trump, at the president, please help gun owners in the state of Virginia by stopping this nonsense gun control unconstitutional new law coming up for a vote in January. It's going to cause a new civil war if you do not stop it. Again, I urge you to share this video. I don't believe this to be a bipartisan Democrat or Republican issue. I think this is a constitutional issue. It is an issue when it comes to our God-given rights to protect the sanctity of our homes, our family, our life, and liberty, are what they call our inalienable rights here in the United States of America. This is what protected us, of course, from a king and was the Declaration firing shot that made up 1776, that declared independence and gave us all said rights today that we must mobilize in 2020, January 2nd, to protect. Again, get this message out everywhere. Share this video across your social networks. All links in the description box below. I love you guys. God bless. Again, I don't think I've ever been this compelled to share information like this with the American public and really the public worldwide, as this will be a lesson for what said future events take place in the United States of America. And as Patrick Henry famously once said, give me liberty or give me death. Virginia is standing up, but more importantly, every great state in this constitutional republic, Democrats and Republicans, I believe, in my humble opinion, will stand up and fight, to protect their God-given constitutional rights. I love you guys. Get this video out everywhere. This is AMTV, Alternative Media Television, and I am Christopher Green.